Hi, Mahima. I have rejoined. Can you please confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, Harsh, you're audible now.
I still can't hear you.
I hope is everybody anybody else is facing the same problem?
They can hear me.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Hush, your voice is audible. You're audible.
Hello, Mahima, are you there?
Yes, Harsh, there is some problem with your
Finally, okay.
Techcanvass.
I got you. I got you this time. Yep. I'm so sorry about this.
Okay,
So
that's
sorry.
okay. That's okay. Let's just wait for 2-3 minutes more and then we can begin.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Meanwhile, okay, I think we have a couple of guys over here. So just to engage all of you, I am going to ask you a very simple question. Has anybody used I mean, last 15, 20 years, has anybody used any Nokia mobile phone?
No,
Nobody has used Nokia.
it's been a long for me. He used to
It's
use
been a
that
long
one.
time. Okay, I understand.
Yeah,
But you know what? 15, 20 years back, Nokia was a big hit. I think that was the first time when Nokia was, the way it hit the market. Uh, they were doing pretty good, very well.
yeah.
Anybody for that matter.
Actually, yes.
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead, Koman.
No, sorry. I think I was just saying that Nokia was the first phone which
This
the people
conference will
or the
now be
90s
recorded.
have started using it and introduced the concept of multimedia and other things.
Yeah, that's right, absolutely. And what are the famous brands today? Anybody?
Yep.
So what are you
Sorry, Harsh.
using
I
these
think
days?
your voice is not quite clear to me.
What
Yeah,
kind
Harsh,
of
it's
phones
a
are we
bit
using today?
feeble. Can you?
I'll try and switch off my and switch off my fan.
Your voice is a bit feeble.
Check. Okay, how about now? Better?
Yeah, much better.
Okay, great. All right. So I think we have a quorum already set up here.
I,
Can we start? Okay. Yeah, please go
Mhm.
ahead, Mayman.
Yeah. Okay. Let's we can begin. So let me begin with the introduction. So welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining this session. My name is Mahima and I'll be your host for this session. Before we begin, I request everybody to go on mute and turn off your videos. And if you have any queries or doubts during the session, you can raise your hand or drop it in the chat box. Okay, let me quickly take you through Tech Canvas first. Tech Canvas is an IT certifications training organization for professionals where we help them crack their certification exams in the first attempt. So we are IIB endorsed and we are PMI authorized. We offer certification trainings for various courses including CBAP, ECBA, AAC, Business Data Analytics, PMP, and more. We also have domain courses into banking, finance, healthcare, and more. Coming to today's session, it is quite helpful for those who are interested in product ownership domain. We have with us Harsh, who is a seasoned professional with 17 years of IT experience in design, development, and maintenance of enterprise applications in various organizations. So I would request Harsh to take this session forward and thank you all for joining.
Thanks, Mayman. Okay, so all right.
We have
The moment
with us
when
Harsh, who is a seasoned professional.
Nafis, can you please mute yourself? Okay, thank you. All right. Good evening, guys. Good evening for all those who are in the Asia Pacific region, and greetings of the day for all those who belong to different regions and different standard timings. Uh, Welcome to a brand new episode of weekly webinars from Techcanvass. Today, I'm going to give you an insight on the PO certifications. Now, before we started this session, I asked you a question: if anybody has used a Nokia phone ever in their life, there was a reason behind it. I want you to understand uh, what was the customer base from within this group. All right, I'm going to talk about that later in the in the webinar. But let's start. My name is Harsh Shara. I have 17 years of IT experience. I've worked as a developer, technical project manager, as a BA, as a Scrum Master also, and partly as a product owner in my last organization. I currently hold the PSPO 1 and PSPO 2 certifications from Scrum.org, and I'm also preparing for IITA's very popular CPUA certification, which is relatively new in the industry. They started with it last year, but that's something that I'm going to touch upon because it's a very good thing that you guys should pursue. Uh, just one ground rule. If you guys have any questions during this period, in next 1 hour, please just note it down and feel free to ask at the end of each slide, or maybe you can just post it in the chat box, or maybe you can directly ask with Mahima. She's going to help you out with that. So let's start. We are okay. So here's the agenda that I've lined out for today. We are going to talk about the roles and responsibilities of product owner. Uh, in today's competitive world, the world that is filled with startups and new kind of products coming up every day. So we're going to talk about what a product owner is and why is it required. That job is required. That product owner job is required. We are going to talk about certifications that are available and currently very popular in the industry, in the IT industry. We will also see how you can shape up your career from a BA or maybe from a technical project manager to get into that product ownership space. Uh, we'll also talk about certain tips where you can, if you're planning to appear for the certification, specifically for Scrum.org, PSPO 1 or PSPO 2, we're going to talk about a couple of tips that you can look at uh, for your certifications. Okay, so as you know that today's world is all about agility, and you know agility is something that actually is going to define whether your organization is going to succeed or it's going to fail in the coming days. In software world, the whole concept of agility came into picture when the industry realized that our traditional project management practices were not helping us to keep up pace with the dynamic environment that we have outside in the market. Because every day there was something new that the customers want. Things were changing very fast, right? So it became imperative for us to shift our perspective from that traditional project management to product mindset, and that's where the entire uh, product ownership concept came into picture. So this has happened in last 1 decade. I think you have also guys who are from India. They know that even the Indian government has started that concept of Make in India, and that's where a lot of startups came in India. So these are all product-oriented organizations or companies uh, that actually want to make it big in the industry, right? And somewhere IT is a big part of that. So that's where the product ownership comes into picture. Now there are two quick things that I want to talk about. One is when I in my previous sentence I said that project management, the traditional project management, uh, that thing, the traditional project management was talking about a lot about budgeting, scheduling, was talking about the success of the project, not the product, right? If you see, if someone has come up from an organization where that traditional project management prevails, you can uh, you can easily correlate with that. There are managers who are actually looking at the management side rather than at the value side or the ownership side of that product, right? So that is where the difference lies between the traditional project management and the the newly introduced product ownership. Uh, Also, there is, when we talk about budgeting and scheduling, if somebody has gone through project manager, PMP thing, PMP certification or something like that, that used to talk about budgeting and scheduling and resources management, these kind of things. But product ownership talks about the value, the actual value that the product gives to the customer, right? And that was the reason why I came up with that example of Nokia, because Nokia had that project mindset long back, 15, 20 years back. They were the best people in the industry who were creating mobile phones. I think every month they came up with a new mobile handset that was a big hit. But at the end of all of it, they ended up having being a, a division in Microsoft, and now I think it's being governed by S&P. Right? They still make phones, but they are not great because their mindset was that of a project. They were thinking in terms of deliveries. They were not thinking in terms of what the customers really want, and that's where iPhone came into picture. Android phones or Nexus phones came into picture. Pixel phones have come, right? So that's the whole difference between project management and product ownership. Okay, so we are going to talk about the responsibilities of the PO first, and then next time, I mean, in the next slide, I'm going to walk you through the different kinds of certifications that we have in the industry that are very popular these days. Uh, but before that, you need to understand that when I say agility, you need to understand that agile is an umbrella under which many methodologies or frameworks are practiced. And in today's context, Scrum is the most popular framework that helps organizations and teams to address really complex problems in iterative and incremental fashion. Right? When I talk of product owner, this is a term that I'm deriving from the Scrum framework. I know that this term is used across in the under the Agile umbrella. You will see that a lot of different methodologies, be it XP or be it SAFe, these kind of approaches, they all use product ownership. Okay, but then that's what the basic idea is. So first, I'll give you a quick overview of what Scrum is. Within a Scrum team, uh, let's say you are in an organization and you have a Scrum team, uh, there are only three accountabilities uh, that they talk of that the Scrum has mandated. That one is developers, set of people who are going to actually develop what the product goal is, what features they are going to build. Right? Then there is a Scrum Master, and finally we have a product owner. Right. So in today's session, we are going to talk only about product owners. We are not going to deviate from that. We'll not talk about developers or scrum masters. Uh, what are product owners? So product owners are accountable. These are the responsibilities that you can see on your screen. These are the responsibilities of product owner. Uh, they are the business facing people. They are the people who actually maximize the value of the product. uh, when I say maximize the value, really means that whatever work that the Scrum team or the developers are doing, they actually maximize that. Uh, bring value to that. Now, how this may be done could vary across organizations. There, there are different kind of domains. There are different kind of organizations. They may have a different kind of setup. But within that, how they do it, how they want to do it, what is their definition of product ownership could be slightly different. But then Scrum mandates that PO is somebody who is with the accountability of maximizing the value. Can There's somebody who's not on mute.
Okay. Akshay, can you go on mute, please? Give me a second. Okay, Harsh, you can continue.
Okay. So one of the things is maximizing the value. Now, when I say maximizing the value, it really means that whatever work that the organization is that the Scrum team is working on, uh, the product owner is responsible for maximizing that value. So now you can clearly see the delineation between product management, the project management, the traditional project management, where we were talking actually about managing people sitting on their head, micromanaging them, talking about scheduling, talking about volume of work that they are doing. We are talking about work breakdown, structure, Gantt chart, and whatnot. Versus we are now talking about only of the value that is eventually going to give to the customer. And that's what we are worried about. That's what a PO is worried about. And that's the difference between these two. So in product terms, this is the biggest responsibility of a PO. They have to maximize the value of whatever work that is being done by their Scrum team, by the developers in their team. The next thing is product goal or vision development. Now, product goal or vision is, I mean, in broader terms, it's developed by product managers. Now, I also want to talk about product managers versus product owners. There's a slight difference between these two. Now, there are a couple of organizations who use them interchangeably, but in broader sense, product managers look at the entire life cycle of a product, right? So, manager is something who actually conceives the idea, may not conceive the idea, it usually comes from the top management or the leadership group, but they are the people who are with the product right from the incubation till when it's being built. They go through the delivery process, then it gets matured, and finally, uh, there are times when you have to retire that product. So we can take one example like Google Plus was one of the products that Google came up with long back. So there had to be a product manager, right? And they are the they are the people who look at the entire life cycle of the product. Okay, but a product owner, they look at the practical aspect of the project, while the product manager is looking at the strategic aspect. These are the people, product owners are the people who are looking at the tactical aspects, smaller things, product roadmaps, what we are going to build next, what would be the release plan, how to manage the product backlog, how are we going to order the backlog or prioritize the backlog, these kind of things. So when it comes to goal or vision, as I said that you know within an organization it could be different uh, ways of doing the same thing. The titles may be different, but that's the basic of that you have to set a goal for your product. What is it going to eventually achieve? What are the services that will be provided by your product? Right. So while PM look at the strategic aspect of the product, POs are looking at the tactical side. Smaller things. Okay. One of the main responsibilities of
Harsh,
product owner is,
questions in the comments.
sorry.
Uh, there are certain questions in the comments box. Do address them as well.
uh, okay, one second. Nokia was overconfident over their stance in their last ticket. It was going strong, and then the invite came up, screwed up their promise in many ways. Well, I take that. His first man is dying. His companies are shifting to. Okay, I'll answer all these questions. Others, I'll definitely answer all these. But I think this is something that um, it's an interesting topic. But let me complete this first, and then I'll answer your question. I'll just note it down. Okay. All right. So creating product roadmap. So one of the important things that POs have to do is to create roadmaps. Roadmaps are kind of artifacts that describe how to achieve the product goal. The goal that we talked about just now. What are the key milestones that we need to achieve during the product development process? So these are the things that a roadmap contains. It's a kind of visual summary of what we are going to do in next quarter. Well, it also depends on how your organization works. It could be month, it could be quarter, it could be half year, and it's usually based on the direction of the CIO or the product, you know, the VP of the product strategy. Uh, Another important thing is now this product backlog management is something that is very specific to PSPO one certification, the level one certification from either from Scrum Alliance or Scrum.org. You'll have to be very careful about this product backlog management thing. So what happens in product backlog management is, once the product owner has clarity over what the customers want after building a kind of relationship or rapport with them or building empathy with them, they try and understand what the customers really want in the first place, right? Within that product. So they talk to stakeholders. They do a Reiki in the market. They try and understand what the market is, where it is heading, where their competitors are, right? And then based on that, they create the product backlog. So product backlog actually contains all the features that they are going to build over a period of time. That's going to help shape up the product in longer. So within a product, when I say product backlog management, it really means that over a period of time, you'll have to a product owner will need to frequently revisit the product backlog. They will have to look at whatever features are required in future or not. If there's any change to that feature, uh, is there anything that is kind of creating dependency within that feature? So these kind of things is something that product owner needs to look at very frequently. And probably, I think, from my own perspective, because since I was a proxy product owner, my on-site boss, who was the actual product owner, she was looking at it every day. Uh, she was trying to find out what is the best way to move forward. Because she was consistently and constantly talking to the customers. She was looking at the market, right? So, product backlog management contains ordering and making sure that whatever items are there are relevant to our costs, and it is helping us getting closer to our product goal. The next one is customer advocacy. So within a Scrum team, where Scrum masters are developer facing people, the POs are actually the business facing people. They have to constantly connect with stakeholders. They have to build empathy with them. They try and understand what they need and accordingly build the product back PD. Uh, as I mentioned in the previous point, in this regard, the PO has to have a good knowledge of the market, of the domain that they are working on. So let's say if uh, you are in the space of OTT platforms, for example, it could be Amazon Prime, it could be Netflix. You have to make sure what. So if you are working with Netflix, probably you'll have to make sure of your competitors also. You'll have to see what Disney Hotstar is doing, what Boot is doing, what Amazon Prime is doing. They also need to have good knowledge of the market, the domain, and the interpersonal skills, uh, analytical kind of mindset. Because not many times they'll have to work with a lot of data. Uh, so when I say data, it could be whether you are your next release that is coming up. Uh, was it able to help you in gaining the customer acquisition? Were you able to hold your customers back? Did it improve your customer engagement overall, or the customer user experience overall? So these kind of things that you need to look at from a PO's perspective. And obviously, one should have problem solving skills. Uh, A key thing here is to understand that you know if you are truly working in Scrum environment, uh, the leadership should empower the PO, the product owner, uh, and should respect their decision. And this is one of the, I mean, if you will appear for the exam, you will see that this is a very important question that is often asked. Uh, how's the relationship between the leadership and the product owner, whether they are empowering the product owner to respect his decisions or not. So these kind of questions will be asked in the exam. Finally, as a product strategist, there are, the entire theory of Scrum is based on empiricism and design thinking. So when I say empiricism means learning from doing, learning from experiencing, learning from the learning from looking at the results that you have in hand, right? So it comes from knowledge of what you can see, what you can actually observe, rather than making guesses about you know that something could be right. So that's the difference. And lean thinking means you don't have to create waste while you are working on an initiative. It could be a lot of unnecessary reports that we create for management that are never used. There's a lot of code that we write which is never used. These kind of things, uh, and that's what Scrum is against. I think there's another question from others. Others, you have asked about product owner career path. I'll talk about that in the next slide. Uh, in that context, when I talk about product strategies, there are times when you have to look back and look at your own product and see whether it is working as per you had thought of or not. So you need to inspect and adapt. So for that, you need a lot of key value areas. That's part of evidence-based management. I maybe some other day we'll talk about it. But the fact is that whether your product is working fine or not, whether it's meeting the expectations of the customers or not, you need to look at that. You need to inspect that and then adapt your product accordingly. So for that, probably you can look at customer satisfaction. You can look at customer usage index. You can also look at release, like how frequently you are releasing your product versions, new versions or new changes in your product. Look at you should also look at rate of innovation. You know, there could be, for example, in case of uh, Netflix and Amazon Prime, probably Netflix is slightly, uh, I mean, Amazon Prime these days is slightly ahead of Netflix. So that's a true story because uh, Netflix was not able to keep up with good content. So that is one of the strategies that you'll have to look at. Maybe for that reason they might be having a different kind of product owner, but then that's what product owner is all about. Product ownership, right? Uh, I'll now take you through how do I okay. Okay, so these are the I mean I could pick these four certifications that are very popular in the industry today. I'll talk mostly on the professional product owner side because that is something that I have experience of. Certified Scrum Product Owner is also similar. It's just that they belong. Both these certifications come from different organizations, different bodies. That's it. But they contain the same thing. Safe product owner is for the safe environment. I'll not touch this. I mean, I'll go through the website. I'll show
If you
you what
think I
it
might
means.
be able to
It's
help,
only for the
try
safe
asking what can
environment.
you do.
Safe environment is where you are actually scaling the Scrum on a bigger level. Where multiple teams are involved who are doing Scrum. And I'm guessing that most of you are looking for your first step. So in that case, I think PSPO and CSPO is something that you can look forward to. Now, certificate in product ownership analysis is all about this is an IABA certification, uh, and it actually culminates the practices of BA. If somebody has read about IABA's CGAP exam or ECB or CBA exam, uh, it's specifically for PAs. business analyst. It culminates these two practices, the BAs and the product owner, and it forms a very good combination of that. And then it has created a framework of its own, and that's what they call as certification product ownership analysis. So CPOA actually contains best practices from Scrum, those core things, and mix it with BA practices, and that's where you come up with this CPOA certificate. So I'm quickly going to walk you through the professional Scrum product owner requirements certification first. The good thing with Scrum.org is now these days Scrum.org is the most popular one. Uh, it's not that Scrum.org is paying me for this or saying it loud, but the fact is that their certifications don't expire. You don't have to go through any kind of training beforehand. And there are three levels of product owner certifications in there. So as you can see, professional Scrum product owner one, two, level two, and then level three. Can you see this? No. Wait, I'll just share it. Um, can you see this, guys? There are three certifications.
Yes.
Okay. So Scrum.org has come up with three certifications: product PSPO one, PSPO two, and PSPO three. PSPO one is relatively easy if you look at their requirements. It's actually just $200. The passing score is 85%. The time limit is 60 minutes, and the number of questions asked is 50. So within 1 hour, you have to complete 80 questions. These are multiple choice questions. There can be multiple answers, and its difficulty level is intermediate. So if you are thinking of building a career in product ownership, this is the certification that I would strongly recommend. You should go ahead. It give you a very strong foundation on Scrum, how Scrum works. Uh, Half of this, the syllabus of PSO certification and the PSM Scrum Master certification is common. So at least 50% of the questions will be found, Scrum Mastership. So a good thing would be to, if you are planning for Scrum Product Owner one, I'll recommend that also look at PSM one exam first, and then look at Product Owner one. PSPO 2 and 3 are difficult. PSPO 2 is entirely based on it's a it's an advanced level. Its difficulty level is advanced. There are 40 questions that you have to answer in 60 minutes. Right. And finally, there is PSPO level 3, which is actually I think hardly 500 people in the entire world have gained that certification so far. So that's for the for somebody who's the expert, super expert level. But when it comes to you guys, I think you should start from professionals from product owner one. Additionally, you can look at there's a different organization that provides the Scrum product owner certification that's called Scrum Alliance. Now, here's something that you should know. The guys who started Scrum, Jeff Sutherland and Ken Stober, that's his name. One of them started Scrum.org and the other one started Scrum Alliance. That's it. That's the only difference. But they have got the same Scrum guide. Now, if you look at the product owner track in Scrum Alliance, it's roughly the same. You can appear for CSPO 1, and to appear for Advanced Certified Scrum Product Owner, you will need to have CSPO first. Now, the catch with this Scrum Alliance is that you have to attend it's mandatory to attend their 2 days workshop, which is, I think, 16 hours or 14 or 16 hours. And then you need to connect with your trainer. They will send you a link. Then you have to appear for that exam. I don't know the number of questions that they have these days because I did long time. Uh, and then you have to do it. The other problem with this exam is that you have to maintain this certification after every 2 But that's not the case with Scrum.org. Once you have won the certification, it lives with you forever for your entire life. So that's a good thing about Scrum.org. And Scrum.org is that's one reason why it's gaining more popularity these days. Uh, so here's a track for Scrum Alliance. And it's roughly the same as PSPO1, PSPO2, and PSPO3. This is the highest level that you can achieve. Safe, as I've already mentioned, safe is really not for, it's not Scrum specific. It is usually done for the safe environment. So safe environments actually scaled agile framework. Uh, there are multiple Scrum teams are involved, right? So this is something that, I mean, I would recommend you not to target this right away. Your first target should be either this one from Scrum Alliance or either from Scrum.org. But I wanted to showcase it because this is one of the certifications that is in demand these days that you can look at. Finally, we have IABA's very own. They came up with this certification last year in June, in the first week of June. This exam uh, is a mix of BA practices plus your, you know, the hard to Scrum product owner that we have. That is something that is already listed by Scrum.org or the Scrum Alliance. So it's a mix of that. They have gone there. They have because these guys, the IPA folks, are very good at PA certifications. They mix these two, and it was the right thing to do. I mean, uh, if you go through the guide that they have provided, the CPOI guide, it makes a whole lot of sense. They have given very good examples over there, very good case studies that you can look at. Whether or not you're going to appear for it, that's your choice. But uh, do have a look at that guide. It should be available somewhere on the website. Okay, so PO as your career. There are different thoughts about this because see, I was a product. I was a developer. I later became a technical project manager. I was also into Scrum Mastership, but and then partly as a PO. Uh, you can go through different routes and eventually get here as a PO, but you need to have that kind of mindset. You need to be creative. You need to think everything from a product's perspective, how it can bring value. This is for just for your ease to understand that uh, there are hardly any entry level POs in the industry. You will usually see that BAs or project managers are getting into that role first. Uh, but it may happen that within your organization you may find a route that you can get into those PO activities. Uh, if you are a if you are a BA, probably it will be more easy for you to. So I think a natural transition is that if you are a BA already, it's more likely that someday you are going to become a PO. There's a likelihood that you can take that path of becoming a PA. That's the closest thing that comes to my mind, and I've myself experienced that. It's going to help you a lot. Um, and then there's no end to it. Once you are a good product manager, you have seen the growth. You have actually been into the market, built a product that you can really post on. You can actually go to that. If you guys have heard about Sundar Pichai, who's the CEO of Google, and now I think he's CEO of ABC also. He actually started with Gmail, and he was a product owner for that long time, and see how he has progressed. So this could be a pathway that you can look at. I had a question from Adarsh, I guess. Yeah. Uh, I'll take it. I'll take it again. Uh, Okay, certification strategy. I'll quickly wind it up and then I'm going to spend 10 minutes answering your question. Certification strategy, there are only two things that you need to look at. One is Scrum Guide, which is freely available on scrum.org. Okay, you can go through that. It's a 14-page guide. just 14 pages, but believe me, those 14 pages are a Bible in itself. You have to read it very carefully, multiple times probably. I have myself read it. I usually read it every week. I have to read it, and every time when I read it, I find something new in that. You have to read that Scrum guide. You also need to read the EBM guide because EBM stands for evidence based management, and this is one of the things that they are going to have questions on. Uh, you know those key value areas that I was talking about. They are going to talk about your uh, customer satisfaction, customer usage index, release frequency, mostly your KVAs, the current value on realized value, things of that sort. So these two guides, read it very properly. Once you are through with that, you can think of, and there are Scrum.org, for that matter, they provide their own. If you look at this, product owners learning path, there are three. Yeah, so these are three questions that are available on Scrum.org site. You can attempt them just to gauge, just to validate your knowledge, how much you know, how much you need to learn more. There are courses from Techcanvass also. I think one of the courses that I want to talk about was that they already provide. A lot of folks have already cleared CPO from Techcanvass. So this is one that you can look at, and I think you can get in touch with one of your project coordinators. They are also coming with ESP certification training in coming days, probably next 2 weeks. They'll be coming up with that. And that's why this session. Uh, so Tech Canvas provides that training. You can look at that. For self learning, go through this. Just note it down, guys. There is a very good book for product owners called The Professional Product Owner, Leveraging Scrum as a Competitive Advantage. That's written by Don Maybury. Very short. Buy it and go through it a couple of times, multiple times. This is the cover of the book. It's available on Amazon. That hard copy is available. And Kindle edition is also available, so you can go through that. It's a very good book, must read book for all product owners or people who are uh, aspiring to be product owners. And finally, we have Scrum.org. There's a lot of information, a lot of blogs and articles written uh, on product ownership over there. You can go and look at this, and there's a lot that you can, if you go and look at the training, the learning path for product owner, you'll uh, get a lot of resources out there. So this is something that I would strongly. Uh, I'll come back to your question before we run out of time. All right. Okay. So I'll start right from the beginning. Nokia was overconfident over their stand in the last decade. It was going strong, and then the Android came up. See, the whole thing about Android was that Nokia went with its proprietary software. I don't remember the name exactly, what operating system they were using, but there was a lot of things that the open source, that Android open source project was providing, and that's where actually Android banked upon. And not just that, right before it, I think what's his name, Steve Jobs, he came up with that iPhone and it became a major hit, right? So this is where the entire thing broke down. So Nokia was not thinking it from. They were just looking at the hardware and they were just coming up with those phones. They were not actually looking at what the customers really wanted at that time. And I think it went uh, uh, beyond their reach that the Android folks and the iPhone folks were targeting. So I think that's where I completely agree with you, others. They were kind of overconfident. Probably they didn't have that kind of approach, and that's why they ended up being with Microsoft, a small division of Microsoft. Even that didn't work. They had to go back to HMD. Is project management dying as companies are shifting to product centric approach? I completely don't agree. Project management has got its own space. It has got its own value. Uh, Scrum is not meant for every kind of project. Scrum is only meant for complex projects where we don't have an established approach. Project management will still go with the industry like uh, uh, automobile or could be construction industry. They have they have a very prescribed approach of doing things. Project management works pretty well. So it won't die. But in today's world, what companies are doing is mm, I have my so let's say I'm the CIO. I have heard that, oh my God, Scrum is doing great. People are talking about Scrum these days. I am not even sure whether I should be employing it or not. But then I go ahead with it. Why? Because then I can say, you know that even our company is doing Scrum, but they don't know the actual meaning of Scrum, whether they even require it or not. So that's where we need to understand Scrum first, and that's something that the world is lacking right now. And I'll give you a very factual information. Last year, Scrum.org did a uh, survey, and they said that 69% of the teams across the world that they have surveyed actually don't do Scrum. They pretend to do Scrum. That's how it is. That's how bad it is. But whoever is doing Scrum, if you have heard about Spotify model from this company called Spotify, that uh, music platform that we have. Uh, they created their own Scrum, but it was very popular back in 2014. And that's when they became number one providing the music platform for the users. So yes, project management is going to stay. They will take some good practices from uh, agility. I mean, from Scrum. Scrum has taken some good practices from project management also. So I think it's both the ways. Product owner career path. Can you please let me know like what next after the product owner? So there are a lot of things that you can do after, but I think in keeping the interest of the audience in mind, I think uh, we'll need to first look at what before product ownership, right? So I think if you're a technical guy who's very creative, good with interpersonal skills, has got very good ideas. I think you guys or you are into BA space for a long time. I think you should look forward to product ownership because this is what is going to happen in the future. It's going to boost the industry. After that, I think then there's no looking back. Once you are product owner, then I don't know, could be a someday you could end up being a product strategist or the vice president of product strategy, something like that. Which one is better, Scrum.org or Scrum Alliance? Any differences? That I've talked about it. In my personal opinion, I don't want to call it out loudly. That doesn't look very professional, but they see, Scrum.org is little difficult to achieve. Scrum Alliance, I found it easy because I was also a CSM some 8 years back. I did that certificate. I found it very easy. Uh, but for Scrum.org, the one that they do, the PSM1 certification and PSM2, I found it actually difficult, little daunting. I had to really work hard for that. So you have to make up your mind. I'll go with Scrum.org because you get this advantage of not renewing your certification every 2 years, wasting $50 or $100. I think that's what the price is. The good thing is Scrum is once you have it for your entire life, the certification. It's more popular these days. And I think that would be one of the reasons why it's more popular. Does experience count as an eligibility for product owner? Absolutely. Yes. For product owner certification, no, at least for PSPO1, you can crack the exam without any knowledge. But, at the end of it, if you don't have any experience or if you have not well read yourself, you're going to face a lot of problems. So I would say that at least get into that mindset of product ownership and then appear for it. uh, you or maybe you can crack the exam first and then you'll probably start gaining that kind of interest within yourself that okay, this is something that I can look forward to as my career path, and then you can move forward with that. Eligibility criteria. So for PSPO one, there is no eligibility criteria. You just have to pay the fees and you can apply for the exam. The exam is little tough. You will have to work hard. You will have to understand the entire Scrum framework first. And I'll recommend that before cracking the PSPO one exam, you should target PSM because PSM Scrum Master exam. It actually gives you a very broad perspective of what Scrum framework is all about. And for PSPO, because 50% of the syllabus of PSM and PSPO is the same, it helps a lot. So PSM should be the first thing that you should target. I mean, even if you're not appearing for the exam, at least have a good read, have a good understanding of what the framework is all about. I am CSM certified, which one will be advanced training for me. So, if you want to continue with Ravindra, if you want to continue with CSM, I think you can go with ACSM. Uh, I showed you the pathway. Uh, wait a minute, I'll just bring it up again. Okay, so here is it. Here it is. So you're already a CSM. You can look forward to advanced certified Scrum Master. But for this, again, as I said, the only thing is from Alliance is that you have to take a course. And I don't know it in INR. The last I remember, I think I had to pay 25,000 bucks for 16 hours of training, and then they are going to give you a link to appear for the exam. And so maybe in your case, if you're looking for ACSM, this is what your path would be. So you also need to validate at least 12 months of work experience specific to the role of Scrum Master. So yeah, there are certain conditions. Just have a look at that Scrum Online site. It's available over there. Uh, Product owner versus product manager is the next natural career transition for product owner professional to be. Yes, no, absolutely right. Others, this is how it should be. Once you are a product owner, the next obvious thing for you would be to become a product manager, because now you are going to look at the end-to-end cycle of the entire product, instead of just the roadmaps or just the product backlog management and things like that. Probably now you'll go one step ahead and now you will start building the products right from their nascent state, their incubation to finally their retirement or when they have reached their maturity level, things like that. Yeah. As BA, how I can move to PO. BAs have a very good understanding of the how the system works, how to connect with stakeholders to fetch the requirements. So they have a very strong sense of uh, those elicitation skills that we have with a BA. So for that, the first thing would be obviously to have some kind of basic understanding of Scrum framework, uh, because that's where the whole PO job is prevalent these days. So PSPO one would be one thing that you should look forward to. PSPO one, or it could be CSPO or ACSPO. Yeah, CSPO or PSPO, which prefers certification to go for. I personally prefer PSPO. Okay, is product strategy is part of product owner responsibility. It's not really product owner. I think a lot of things are being governed by product managers usually, or probably by the leadership. But then you should have fair understanding of what the product strategy is, because in lot many cases you need to inspect and adapt your own product in many ways, whether your product is even working in the market or not. So when that thing comes into picture, you will have to figure out ways to identify whether the customers are happy or not. So yes, in certain sense, and it also differs, kind of varies from organization to organization. Uh, it may be that certain organization that product owners are actually doing the product managerial job. So it's all about the titles, but from a holistic understanding, this is what the differences are between these two. From a product owner's perspective, strategy is something that you can always help your product managers with. It may happen that you are actually reporting to a product manager long term. Okay, is a product owner role only in Scrum framework, or it's see it usually it became popular with so I'm answering others' questions. Is a product owner role only in Scrum framework, or we will see there's a big mistake that the people are doing these days. What's happening is people are actually mixing product management and product management together. Now, project management is entirely different. It talks about schedule, budgeting, it talks about scope, cost, risk, and those six factors that we have in PMP exams, right? Whereas product ownership talks about only about value, the actual product mindset that we have. Okay, so that's a different. Is it only inside the Scrum framework? No, it is under the Agile umbrella, I would say. So and under Agile, we have got different kind of frameworks. Like we have Kanban. Probably we don't have product managers in Kanban, uh, product owners in Kanban, but Scrum is there. There is safe environment is there. We do have product managers over there. We have product owners there. What's the difference between What is the difference between PSP and CPO? Which one is to consider first? They both are the same thing. No, CPO. Okay. So I would say that go with PSPO first because that will give you a very good understanding of what Scrum framework is all about, and based on that, you can build on your CPO. CPOA is will be much easy for you if you are already a IATA certified uh, aspirant. If you have done any kind of IAB certification earlier, for example, it could be ECBA, the entry level certificate for business analyst, or could be what is it, CCBA and then CBAP. I am CBAP certified. I'm also PSPO certified, and that was the reason why I took up CPOA also because I found that that merging between these two things very helpful for my career. So I could relate to those BA things, I could relate to those Scrum things. And when it got blended together in one certification, I am finding it very useful. And probably in another couple of months, I'll appear for that exam too. As the BA, CBAP or PSP first preferences, current situation. It depends. I would, as a BA, go for CBAP first. Don't think about agility or don't think about Scrum in that sense. You should go for CBAP first because that's your core area, that's your home ground, right? You should know how to play there, and then you can probably later months once you are through with CBAP exam, then you can think of going for Scrum related certifications. Would you continue in the BA path or jump to PO role? Which one would you since experienced BA professional can you please say? See, you can remain a BA for first 10 to 12 years of your professional career. But what after that? You need to grow. Probably you'll become senior BA. But what after that? Uh, Someday you'll have to turn. You'll have to from your professional growth perspective. You have to jump to a different level, and for that you need to study. You need to prove or showcase your skills. And I think PO is the right transition that's going to help you in professional career. So I think that is the path that you should take. I don't. It's not that I'm strongly recommending it. It all depends on how it works for you. But I think this is what has worked for me and a lot of my friends also. It's pretty natural to go that way. What should the PA do? Continue. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. We have I've answered all the questions. But thanks for all right. Anybody wants to ask a last question? We are already on time. Anything that you want to talk about, guys?